Hello, my name is Sebastian Plate. I work at Ellery Studio in Berlin, and we are an agency for strategy, design, and foresight. And in this short video, I would like to communicate the essence of how we approach futures literacy in practice. We recently partnered up with One Resilient Earth to run a session that was part of their event called Flourish, a youth learning journey of climate resilience and regeneration. In this short workshop session that we did, it was about envisioning just, biodiverse, climate positive, climate resilience, and regenerative worlds. We explored the future through the lens of futures literacy. Before I get into all the specifics of the session and of futures literacy, here's a question to all of you. What is the future? In our everyday lives, we are confronted with so many possibilities of the future. We deal with the future every day. And not only do we think about our own future, we think about bigger futures for us, for the community, for our society, and as a collective. Often, we are convinced that the future is something inevitable, something looming at the horizon, either sending us to our doom or to paradise. And over time, we've grown so accustomed to phrases saying, this is the future, or the future is coming, that we think it's just going to happen to us. We start seeing the future as a door, waiting to be opened. And all we have to do is walk through and be there. But wait, if all we have to do is walk through, how come that every time we plan and predict, every time we dream or desire, and every time we organize or make decisions, things emerge that we didn't think of before? And if we are confronted with so many different futures, how can they all be true? As you can see, this one door analogy I just mentioned does not really quite cut it when we describe reality here. So here's where futures literacy comes in. From the top, I would like to make one thing clear. In futures literacy, we think in terms of multiple futures. If every person already thinks in terms of futures, so the plural, there cannot be just one future. Futures literacy enhances our capability to make use of the power to imagine these different futures. Futures literacy, in fact, as it was initially coined by UNESCO, is a capability to imagine multiple futures and use those futures to see the present anew. So the future is not behind just one door. The future is a collection of opportunities and chances, of possibilities and desires, of alternatives and plausible scenarios. And it is a collection of the present. We expand our views on different futures, and in this way, we see the present differently. But if there are multiple doors or futures, we cannot know what will happen or what the future will bring. And futures literacy is not teaching us how to predict the future. It enables us to enhance our attitude on how we approach it. So how does this work? In our session, the participants experienced a futures literacy laboratory. For many, this is a familiar term. For those who don't know yet, a futures literacy laboratory, or lab as we call it, is a learning by doing workshop that creates a space to practice the capability of imagining multiple futures to see the present anew. As a facilitator, my role is to guide the participants through the different phases of the laboratory. Usually, there are 4 phases. Reveal, reframe, rethink, and redo. In those 4 phases, we want to communicate that there are multiple futures, surface some of the assumptions about the present all participants and us might have, and enhance participants to imagine new ways to approach the future. In our workshop about climate resilience, we had 3 phases. In the first phase, we revealed probable and desirable futures to warm up all participants to explore the possibility to see multiple futures. In our session, as it normally happens, the predictions of probable futures and the dreams of desirable futures are very much different. So by the end of this phase, we all know that multiple futures, whether desirable or probable, exist. And this already moves us away from this one-door analogy. We will now show some of the images that connect to probable futures around our topic.
Good evening. The time is 6 o'clock, and this is Singapore Today with Jing Yi, broadcasting live on CNA 938. Tonight's headlines. The government has called for calm following climate fluctuations and extreme weather, which has resulted in widespread crop failure across Asia and Europe. An initiative to weatherproof HDB flats is being fast-tracked by the Ministry for Climate Response after forecasters warn of the increasing likelihood of a tropical cyclone hitting Singapore. The Northumbrian Liberation Front has claimed responsibility for yesterday's coordinated attacks in London, England, which left 13 dead and many more critically injured. Food supply chains are facing a prolonged period of disruption after a series of extreme weather events hit harvests in much of Asia and Europe. Droughts and flooding associated with this year's El Nino event have devastated crop yields, leaving farmers financially vulnerable, livestock short of feed, and supermarket shelves empty. Following a statement by the chair of the UN Food Programme warning of expected price rises of staple foods, the Prime Minister announced a raft of new measures to bolster national and regional food security, with additional funding for Singaporean research labs and the Malaysian agricultural sector. These proposals also provide new incentives for the development and rollout of fortified GM crop varieties and a renewed push to mainstream indoor farming initiatives in Singapore. Leading researchers have warned of a growing risk of tropical cyclones in Southeast Asia, an event once considered impossible. With the global drop in carbon emissions in 2014, it was assumed that the crucial tipping point had been avoided.
By diving into different futures, we also become aware of our own biases and anticipatory assumptions that guide our actions in the present and automatically determine our agency in the future. By becoming aware of those assumptions that guide our actions, we move away from replicating current trends and realize that the future offers a multitude of opportunities. Up next, we will show some of the envisioned desirable futures of this phase.
Now, once again, this vast love calls us home. To sit once more with humility and respect at the table of our kinship, at the table of our shared purpose, at the table of our shared fate, to sit together in the acknowledgement that we are one with the eternal dance of our restless earth. Our forms changing, in unison with one another, in unison with the changing climate and drifting continent. A dance of life, ebbing and flowing across time.
Right. So after we had revealed the different futures, we introduced an alternative future, a scenario with which we aim to stretch the capacity to imagine the future. We call this a reframe, phase 2. It is a neither probable scenario, nor is it a desirable one. It is just an alternative future. With this exercise, we want to break free from the existing thought patterns that we have about the future and tackle the poverty of imagination. We intend to guide the thinking of participants from the what can or what should be to the what if. Here again are some examples of how we later visualize this reframe. So now that you saw these images and we opened up multiple futures and had a reframe scenario, one question we always get asked when running these workshops is basically, what is the outcome or what do we get out of it? As facilitators, we design the structure of the labs. However, we never know its outcome or what each participant might experience beforehand. This is the emergence we, as facilitators and moderators of these labs, also have to deal with. As I said in the beginning, our aim with Futures Literacy Laboratories is not to teach the participants how to foresee the future, but to guide them in the process of exploring it. We do not intend to colonize the mind of participants about the future. We want to foster the imagination about it. So our result in the end was not a new future on envisioning regenerative worlds, but profound insights and new questions which foster agency in the present. And after the lab finishes, the collective learning journey for all participants only starts. Diving into multiple futures and anticipatory systems equips all participants with the tools to continue their learning journey long after the workshop is finished. The purpose is to create an environment that transcends the experience of the one workshop. Well, who owns the future now? And whose futures are we actually talking about? All we know is that the future does not exist, and it never will. And all we do is navigate between the weight of the past, the push of the present, and the pull from the future. And Futures Literacy Laboratories offer us an opportunity to find our way between a multitude of futures, explore our anticipatory assumptions about the present, and hereby tackle the poverty of imagination. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this short video on introduction on Futures Literacy, and I ask everyone to please review the references we sourced our information from. They are attached to this video. If this small introduction and example of our workshop has made you more curious about Futures Literacy, you can get in touch with us and other entities who work intensely with it. So for their contact information, also have a look at the references attached to this video. Thank you.